you here. Oh, there we go. Patty, thank you. Get it going. You're now on recording. So Sue, especially, be on your best behavior. We don't want to get any of the bad behavior on record. But I know that it's January 5th. It is a busy time of year, and you have lots of things that you could do with your time. But I want to say thank you for spending your time with us. The Phi Theta Kappa season, and we often refer to the Hallmark Awards season, is upon us. And I want to tell you that we know there's no perfect way to do this. And we know that by having a year-long cycle of work that you can do, that when we give awards at Catalyst in 2022, it's for what you did in 2021. We know that that means in January, you and your chapter spend lots of time working on these Hallmark Awards. But I wanted to just very briefly remind you, or if you're really just getting to know us, let you know why we take these awards so seriously and why we want to really encourage you to cross the finish line and submit your Hallmark Awards. Phi Theta Kappa has been around now over 103 years. And one of the questions that I often get asked is, how has Phi Theta Kappa kind of maintained such stability and such a strong place within higher education in a world where the average lifespan of a nonprofit is really short, in a world where things are changing so rapidly? Phi Theta Kappa has continued to sit at the intersection of community colleges and universities, community colleges and the workforce and employment, and also at the center of learning within higher education, trying to help students get where they want to go in their career path and to get the skills they need to make those important choices. And I always tell folks, our strength at Phi Theta Kappa is the simplicity of our mission. We recognize and celebrate great college students as the first part of our mission. And then in the second part of our mission, we help those students grow as scholars and leaders. And in our Hallmark Awards program and in all the award entries that you submit, you see a really great 50-50 blend. Because while it is true that at Catalyst, we will celebrate the very top winners in all of these categories, and while it is abundantly true that it's competitive and tough to be in there. Now that I've just been calling out Sue Grove, I remember when Sue's chapter made the top 10, that was a lot of screaming and crying, and we were so happy. For Sue, I wasn't that happy because my chapter wasn't even in the top 50 that year, but I was happy for Sue that her chapter made the top 10. But we celebrate that, but it's not just about who ends up on stage and who ends up being recognized at the international convention or at the regional conventions. It's about the changes that take place in students' lives and on the college campus because of the work that you do. So if you are watching this thinking, do I really have the energy to nominate that great student? Do I really have the energy to nominate my co-advisor who maybe deserves some special recognition for the work that they are doing? Whatever you're thinking about, I want to encourage you, get across the finish line and get this done, because in completing that project and in celebrating yourself, your students, your chapters, so much of what you're doing is tying into that self-efficacy that students gain by being a part of Phi Theta Kappa. And it's that self-efficacy, that belief that they can do it, that knowledge that they have a network championing them, that is the difference we see. And it's why students will come back year after year after year and say, PTK is the thing that made the difference in their life, to get them from someone just kind of wondering and thinking about maybe getting a degree to someone who's completed, someone who's succeeding, someone who's learning and leading out there in the real world. So thank you for everything that you do. You are making a difference. I hope you'll remember, even on those toughest days in student success, it can be tough work. I want you to remember that you are making a difference and you are part of this big, broad network of leaders and learners. We appreciate you. We hope you had a great holiday season. And our student engagement team is here to support you. Do you mind, Patty, can I introduce everyone, or do you have that later on the schedule?
No,
Patty's like, you got to keep me in line. You got to keep, okay, good. So our student engagement team, the most dedicated, intelligent, interesting, fun-loving group of professionals that I've ever worked with. We are here to support you every step of the way. And just to give a little introduction of who we are, You have Susan Edwards, who's our Associate VP of Honors Programming and Undergraduate Research, all things honors and action, all things undergrad research and leadership. You have Jennifer Stanford, our Associate VP of Program Implementation, working on Hallmark Awards, the IO campaign, and so many other things. Reagan Chastain, our curriculum designer, cannot be here today with us, but Reagan is an important part of our team and focuses on our online learning curriculum. And then our outreach and development coordinators, Ryan Martin and Patty Van Adder, who do such a fantastic job reaching you, the chapter advisors, and guiding you through our programs in a really focused and thoughtful way. Jason Quick is working on Catalyst right now, but Jason Quick is also a great part of our team as well. This group in student engagement is so much fun to work with, but the reason we're fun to work with is because we get to work with you, PTK advisors and student success champions every day. A lot of you have gone on to become friends and family to us over the years. And so we keep it as fun and as light as we can, because we know that the work that you're doing is serious business. And we believe that you are changing the world and everything that you do. So welcome everyone. I'm going to turn it over now to, as we would maybe say in a more Robert's Rules of Order, I might say, I'm going to turn it over to the gentle lady from Arizona, but out in the great state of Arizona, Ryan Martin, you can take it away. Thanks everybody for being here.
All right, well, thank you for that, and Happy New Year, everyone. We are 5 days into 2022, so I hope it started off great for you. We're leaving 2020 and 21 in the past, and we're getting started for 22. So some of the things we want to talk to you all about today is, getting over that finish line, how to finish strong. So one way is having that goal of getting recognized. So there are 2 primary award programs in PTK. So we all know that. So that's our, having the 5-star chapter plan, which is non-competitive, maybe, depending on which region you're in, and the highly competitive Hallmark Awards. So those activities that are completed during that 2021 calendar year apply when submitting updates to your 5-star chapter plan progress, and then submitting Hallmark Award entries. So with that, you're setting that goal, part of your 5-star chapter plan. Patty and I talked to you about it, setting that goal and then reporting your progress. Reporting your progress is so important because some of it HQ does, but for the most part, you do it. And if you don't do it, we don't know. We can't check it off for you because we don't know. And then another part of it is cheering on your region. Cheering on those chapters that are part of your region, because you all make a difference. Like Blake said, you're making a difference in the world. So your region is making that difference. So part of that, you go into ptk.org/5-star, and you'll be able to check it off. And we'll go over how to do that in a few. But the deadline to post final updates, let's all say it together, January 21st, 2022 at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is so important because I'm in Mountain Standard Time. My time never changes. Patty is in Eastern Standard Time. So she has to remember Central Standard Time. There's Pacific Standard Time. There's all these standard times. We just need to make sure we're getting it in by 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right, Patty.
Thanks, Ryan. We just want to Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We missed you over break, and we hope you are still enjoying some break as well. We are, next week we're looking at one of the, the individual Hallmark Awards deadline, and then following that is the chapter Hallmark Awards deadline, and we'll talk about those later. But we want to make sure that they understand all of that is connected to the 5-star plan as far as processing and updating us on where have you been on what your chapter has done in the 2021 calendar year. So when you, I know we have advisors, officers, and members joining us today. So I just want to give everybody an overview of the steps of what you need to do. You need to log on with your credentials at ptk.org. And once you log, and you would do that here. When you go to ptk.org, you look to the right, you'll see this little graphic to the side. And that's what you click on to be able to log in. Once you log in, what we want you to do is check the finish line, right? Where does your chapter stand right now today, as far as getting to the finish line? So you've logged into the portal, and once you log into the portal, we want you to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page where it says programs, right? And then you'll see a link for the 5-star chapter plan. Once you get there, you'll want to then click on the progress report. When you click on the progress report, you will see all 29 regions of Phi Theta Kappa. You find the region that your chapter belongs to, click on that region, and then you will see all the chapters that belong to your region. Well, what I want you to do before you go any further is just look, once you get into your region, is just look at the top of the page, and you'll see this blue bar at the top, and it'll say, here's our chapters, here's our state, college. These are the two most important columns right here for you to just get a quick look at where your chapter is listed in the 5-star program for this year. Did you set a goal? If there's no number in this column next to your chapter, then you haven't set a goal yet, and you'll want to address that real soon. If you have set a goal, then the goal will be placed in this column. And then to the right of that is the current star level. That is what your chapter's currently status is currently set at. What we want to do, depending on the goal that you set, is to have that final number match your goal that you set in the beginning of the year, or that you're going to set, in the next couple of days, depending on where you're at. So that Ryan's going to talk about how to do the detailed check for your chapter only.
Okay, so what's missing? So with that, when you're viewing your level requirements, those detail level requirements, so you're going to go to select chapter. And when you see that, you're going to see some boxes, and then you'll see what's required in that level. And on the side, you'll see either a green check, which means completed, or you'll see a red X, which means needs to be completed or update progress. And then to update or report progress, you select report progress button. And then to view history button, which is to view your chapter's history, you just click to view chapter's 5-star history. So you'll see what your chapter has done in the past, where you have been. If you're trying to go off of, oh, we were 5-star 2 years ago, how can we get back? You'll be able to see that.
One of the things I'd like to add here is that all advisors and all reported chapter officers have the ability to update the chapter's progress, right? So you may have implemented your college project, but you just haven't checked off that level in box 4. So any chapter officer and advisor can go in and update that field for the chapter. It takes about 24 hours for it to process, so you can see it on the website, but an email is sent immediately to your chapter advisor that a change has been made, and an update has been made.
Thanks for that, Patty.
So let's talk about don't let one item go unchecked, right? We're going to take a look at the 3-star level, right? And this is what it looks like when you go into that detailed listing that Ryan talked about. You'll see these are the requirements for the 3-star level, and that's about getting involved at the regional level. And there are 2 requirements, as you see, the 2 boxes and the 2 X's there. Chapters are responsible for checking off those boxes, okay? Headquarters doesn't check these off. Regional coordinators do not check these off. This is up for the advisors and officers to do that. So 2021, although some of us don't want to remember the year, it has been a long year. We want you to look back from the year from January 2021 to now and think about the ways that you engaged with your region. Did you attend their regional convention in early last spring? You get to check that box off. Did you participate in a summer institute with your region virtually or in person? Check that box off. Did you work with another chapter in your region on a project? Check that box off. But you, the chapter, needs to go in and check those 2 boxes off. These are one of the ones that get missed every once in a while. So, we want to make sure that you go back in and check those boxes. We do check off the majority of the items, and just like this with regional involvement, you guys need to check that off. all activities in every level, remember this, all activities in every level must be checked in order to reach anywhere from the 2 to the 5-star levels, right? So if you have checked everything in levels 1 and 3, but lack one thing in level 2, your chapter will be a 1-star chapter, right? So I'm going to repeat that again. All activities in every level must be checked in order to reach anywhere from the 2 to the 5-star level. So if you have checked everything in levels 1 and 3, but you lack something in level 2, it's going to go revert back to giving you level 1 status. My apologies for that. Okay. Right? Oh, wait, one more thing about that. One of the things that, I'm gonna go back one of the things that in level 2, which we don't have that graphic here, but one of the things that some chapters forget to do is to report a chapter officer to headquarters in level 2. It's not too late to report anyone who has served as an officer in 2021, even if it's only been one officer, okay? So you got to make sure that if you had someone serve in that role, whether it was elected, appointed, or however they became your chapter's officer, that you want to report that. If you have any questions on how to do that, advisors can contact Ryan or I, and we can walk you through that process. Okay, Ryan, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Some great information, Patty. Thank you. So with level 4, we all know that for the most part, we have to implement that college project. So that's what you think of when you think of level 4. But you also have to enter at least one category in the 2022 Regional Awards program. So that's a submission of a Hallmark Award at the international level counts towards submitting at the regional level. So your chapter can check off that box if you're planning to submit a regional award. So the specific to your region that does not go through the Hallmark Awards app. So something that you did within your region. Or we can check off the box if your chapter submits a Hallmark Award entry through the application system. So administrator, an individual, a chapter, and the alumni award categories. So again, level 4 to get to that is implementing that college project and then submitting at least one category in the 2022 Regional Awards program. And like Patty said, if you have questions, if you need clarification, Patty and I are here for you, and so is the rest of the student engagement team. And please ask us questions. If you don't ask, we can't help you. All right, Patty.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so now for the chapters that have set a goal to be a 5-star chapter, and yay for you, yay. We want to just take a quick look at what's left regarding the requirement of international engagement or engaging on an international level with the society in the 5-star level, right? So if you are planned to have been if you set a goal to be a 5-star chapter, you know that you've implemented or developed an honors in action project, and the rest remains, participating in any of the events that we've had on the international level. So it would have been virtual PTK Catalyst in 2021. It would have been virtual Honors Institute. And if your chapter had attended either one of those events and you see an X, as you do here on the screen, just get in touch with either Ryan or I, and we will get that straightened out for you. But if your chapter, if you know that you didn't attend either one of those, you did not register for either one of those events, what's left, and the only thing that is left, because the honors case study challenge, that deadline was way back, is long past. We have 2 options now. It's the PTK Edge course and the PTK Leadership Development course. And what the requirement is there is that every chapter officer who has been reported to Phi Theta Kappa during the 2021 year will have to complete just one level of any PTK Edge course or one entire unit of the leadership development course. Okay, so that gives everybody an opportunity to satisfy the requirements of the engagement on the international level by going on to getanedge.org and completing one one level of any of the courses. So Research Edge, I would start with Research Edge because everybody needs to do a little bit of have that in their wheelhouse, and it's a professional development course. So all officers, and this is key, any officer, whether they're still an officer today or maybe they graduated, you would need to be able to get in touch with them to have them complete that one level in each of those courses for level 5. That's it on that one, right? I think before we send it over to Susan and Jennifer for Hallmark Awards, were there any questions that we can regarding the 5-star plan that we can answer? We're in the chat. Do we see any? No?
Patty, Angie asked the question, can the officers still complete the unit, or was the deadline December 31st?
I can take that one.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So they absolutely can still complete it. Of course, we'd love it if they had done it by December 31st, but we definitely give grace in this situation, and it is still available for them to complete. And so they, as Patty said so well, they can just choose one of the PTK Edge courses or the leadership development course. And as long as they complete one unit in that course, then they have fulfilled this requirement. So they don't have to complete the entire course, although we probably recommend that. But it really is just, making sure that they are at least completing at least one unit in a PTK Edge or the leadership course. And so those are, all of those courses are self-paced. And so they can enter it with their username, PTK username and password. And Angie, if you want to follow up with me, if you have, any issues, we definitely want, we don't want any obstacles for your chapter to meet this goal. And so if there's anyone that you can't get in touch with, just follow up with us, and we can definitely make that, do a manual upgrade for that particular level activity. So as many officers as you can get, that would be great.
And Jennifer, since we only have a couple of weeks left before that requirement is due, it kills my heart, but I'm going to recommend not having your officers go through the Leadership Development Studies Unit 1. It's much longer than the units for the edges. So at this point, have them go through the edges and then have them go through the Leadership Development Studies Unit 1 for 2022.
Yes, that is a good point, Susan. And but if they had started it, maybe a few months ago, but they didn't finish, that would still count. But yes, it's true. The PTK Edge courses are a little more, I guess I should say, faster to complete.
Okay. All right. And again, Ryan and I just want to let everybody know, if you have any questions, that you can get in touch with us via email. We also will share in the recap that will get sent out tomorrow, opportunities for you to drop in our virtual office hours if you have any other questions or follow-ups that you'd like to do, especially if you're not joining us today and you're watching this video at a later time. It's my pleasure to turn it over to the next big part of Rokc the Finish Line, the Hallmark Awards. So Jennifer and Susan, all you.
Okay. All right. Well, we really want to make sure that we're addressing any questions or concerns that you came to this meeting with. So please feel free to put those in the chat. But I can go through just a couple of basics. And Patty, if you'll move to the next slide. As I know we mentioned this at the beginning, next week is a big Hallmark Awards deadline. We have our individual awards, that's how we refer to them. The member awards, which even though there are a couple of team awards in this category of both member and advisor, we still refer to those as individual categories. And so if you're trying to be a 5-star chapter and you weren't able to submit an entry for any of our administrator awards back in December, this is another opportunity for you to do that. And again, it's only one individual award entry that is required. But the chapter officer team, just to highlight that is only the advisor that has to nominate. There's not another section or nomination done by chapter members or officers themselves. So that's probably one of the easier entries to submit. And you choose who on the officer team is recognized. We know that, you know, a calendar year can cover more than one officer team. And so you can select which one should be officially nominees for that team award. The chapter officer category, chapters can nominate up to 2 individuals. So you can do both chapter officer individual nominations as well as the team. That's totally fine. And then the chapter member, that is for anyone who has not served in a specific officer role. If they've been reported to headquarters in any officer capacity, then they would be ineligible for this award. So it's a member that's been super active, but just was not in an official capacity as an officer. And then the advisor awards, you know, don't be shy. I know we have some hopefully chapter officers on this call too. And we definitely want to encourage them to nominate advisors. And all of those individual categories are listed there because it's based on how long the chapter advisor has served in their role. And so that's Paragon Awards for new advisors, and then Distinguished Advisor is 4 years or more. And then if they've won Distinguished Advisor, you'll see them eligible for continued excellence for advisors. And just like the officer team, the chapter can nominate the entire advisor team with 1 entry. There is a administrator nomination that is required for our advisor categories. The good news is that the administrator can be anyone. It doesn't have to be the college president, and they're only responding to 1 question. So that person can, you know, submit their response in a Word document or a PDF, share it with the chapter to upload to the online application. So that's a really easy thing for them to do. It can be seen as a letter of recommendation, but it doesn't have to be super lengthy. It's literally 1 question. There are, if you happen to miss, and we certainly hope you don't, but if you do miss this next week deadline of January 12th, the alumni, what we now call Hall of Honor awards, are due January 31st. And so that's the very last opportunity to submit. It does count as an individual award category for 5-star, and chapters may submit up to 1 alum for that category. The only caveat there is that the alumnus has to be in that alumni status for 3 years or more. So it's not for a recent graduate, but if they've been active and involved for and have graduated or moved on in the last 3 years, then they are eligible. Okay, next slide, Patty. And Susan, I'm very happy if you want to share too. So feel free. Do you want to start out on this one?
Sure, if I unmute, that would be helpful. We have 2 categories of chapter awards, the college project entry and the honors in action entry. And for 5-star status, a chapter needs to submit both of those entries, and they are due on Wednesday, January 19th by 5 p.m. Central Time. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the college project and honors in action. Jennifer, do you want me to just go into the next slide?
Sure, I think that would be great. And again, you know, we're kind of addressing some frequently asked questions, but and I will make sure that I am checking up on the chat. If you have a specific question, please go ahead and put that in the chat so we'll address it.
Thank you. So we are always asked at this time of year, well, what if we didn't finish our project? You know, or we didn't finish, now what? Or, you know what, this was maybe not our best project and we're just not so sure we want to write it up because we're embarrassed or we don't want to or anything. And so one of the things we want you to know is that go ahead and submit your project entries, your college project and your honors in action entries. They don't have to be outstanding. You don't have to use all 2,600 words. You know, obviously, if you come from a chapter, and I saw a few images there, Liesl Harris's chapter, or Mary Linder's, I know there's some others of you on there who routinely have great projects and submit outstanding Hallmark Award entries for the chapter. They use 2,600 words. You know, they probably use more at some point and then have to edit back. But not all entries are like that. You can still earn 5-star by writing about the entry. For the college project, it may be that you met with your college administration and you just didn't quite finish, the project and the action part of that, or maybe communicating and finishing that. That's okay. Go ahead and write about it, because you can write about what you learned, what you did, how you connected with your administrators. Then the other thing with honors in action is that think about the project holistically. Very often we hear that the chapters will say, well, we didn't do our project, and they mean we didn't finish the action part of the project. But the project is the whole thing. So if you, as a team, selected a theme, if you looked at some sources, if you talked about the honor study topic, if you considered actions but maybe didn't finish them or didn't work the way you wanted to, those are all legitimate things. You can write about all of those things. And again, you can always write about, why didn't you finish? Why didn't you finish all elements? What did you learn from that? That's really legitimate. And it's a way for your chapter to build. You get that tradition of being a 5-star chapter, and then, have those lessons learned for the people who come after you. And since we've been studying inheritance and legacy, that's a nice legacy to leave a chapter. So please, if your advisors, encourage your students to go ahead and write these entries. Again, they don't have to be full length. They don't have to talk about everything, but talk about what they learned, how they grew, what they maybe would do in a different way. We'd love for you to submit, and that counts for 5-star status. So we're also asked with our next slide, please, who writes the entries? The answer is members write the entries. They're the only people who can write the college project and honors in action project entries, Hallmark Award entries. But there are people, chapter advisors, it's really important for you to serve as coaches, this is for you, Liesl, to be the Nick Sabans of your chapters during Hallmark Awards season. That you coach students through the process. Probably a lot of students have not participated in writing technical entries. Scholarship applications and technical writing can be really different from what everyone's doing in the classroom. So your experience and expertise helps students get through that process and learn a lot in the process. And then, we expect that the advisors will coach doing the brainstorming, talking about edits, maybe where students can consider what they're writing and make some changes to that. Advisors can proofread, can ensure that the rubrics are addressed, particularly if the chapter hasn't looked a great deal at the rubrics, and just go through those entries and help chapters out, can make sure that the chapter's writing with active voice, for example. So there are lots of ways chapter advisors can help students write. It's all their writing. They want to make those edits, but you can coach through the process. We hope you'll coach through the process, because we want the reflection and the writing and the submission of the entries to be a learning experiences as well. So for the college project, for honors in action, we encourage you, please submit what you do. I think it was Ryan who mentioned that, we don't know what you do unless we hear from you. And for us, it's really important to hear what you've done through the year. We celebrate that on our team, and really everybody at headquarters celebrates it. You help us fulfill the second part of our mission, to provide opportunities to grow as scholars and leaders. And so we thank you for doing that. This is one more step before January 19th to get it done, and you can do it. And so I am going to send it back to you, Jennifer.
I think I was ahead of the curve in this, so I've pretty much addressed it. But again, because of the individual awards, except for those, the chapter officer team that's written only by the chapter advisor, the rest of them do have 2 nominations that are required. And when it says chapter, that's a member or officer who writes that. And then, of course, administrator, again, it can be any college administrator, does not have to be the president. But we actually do get quite a few that are written by the president, but any administrator on campus is perfectly fine for those advisor award categories. Okay. I think there are some last minute, just kind of housekeeping items. We know that end of the semester, our term last December it went by fast. And so there may be some of you that are literally just getting started with the Hallmark Awards process. So we just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Please know that our main website is ptk.org, and that's where you can find, entry questions and documents and other resources. But to actually apply for the Hallmark Awards, those entry forms are on my.ptk.org. And so if you're an advisor, you have immediate access to it. But to help coordinate that process for every chapter so that it's not chaotic, we do ask the advisors to report any current member, it doesn't have to be an officer, but usually it is, as a Hallmark delegate. And that will give them access to all of the Hallmark Award applications on this webpage. For the most part, the chapter is going to be copying and pasting their answers for each question into a box. So it's not just, having that Word document that you upload and the entry is done. So outside of the administrator nomination that is submitted to the chapter, hopefully as a PDF or Word doc, that you're uploading, but everything else you are copying and pasting. So we highly encourage chapter members to really finalize those entries, get the text where you want it with all those edits, and then put it in a notepad or some other application that takes out all the formatting. That'll make it easier to go in and copy and paste that into the online site. And it is possible to just write in, the entry from the application website, but it will be a much smoother process if you do it outside of the application site and then copy and paste. And it's always good, I know that could be a last minute thing, but make sure the students, or if the advisor is the one that's doing the copying and pasting, make sure you leave time to double check it. It's so easy to repeat text or omit text when you are copying and pasting from another source. And so you really don't want to, have any kind of error like that. We've had some heartbreaking cases where we can tell that it was just a copying and paste error. So have that final proofreading before the deadline. Our website, we're expecting at least a couple thousand entries over this next couple of weeks. So we highly encourage you to get online before the final deadline date. It is going to be a very high traffic website. And so you'll have much fewer technical problems if you go on as early as possible to wrap it up. And you'll note there is a little submit button, but honestly, that is just a formality. As long as it says 100% complete, that application will move forward to judging, and it'll show up in green at the bottom of your website. You'll see that it's in green, and that means that it is 100% complete. You can go in and edit it though up until the deadline, and we highly encourage you to go ahead and download a copy from that website so that you have the final version that was submitted. We can provide that to you later, but once the deadline closes, you won't have access to that. You will have to go through a headquarters staff member to get a copy. This just shows you again the individual award categories that qualify for your chapter to make the 5-star chapter level. And so again, remember, you're submitting an honors in action, a college project entry, and then any one of the individual awards. I will say we have quite a few chapters that submit several individual award categories, and we love that. We know that you probably have a couple of chapter officers, a member, and an advisor or two that you want to nominate, and that is great. We will gladly accept all of those entries. Okay, I think the next one, Patty. Okay, so I'll pause here. We're going to just share some things about, kind of inspiration for a new year. You know, we kick off Phi Theta Kappa's year officially in January because we run on a calendar year instead of an academic year. But we want to make sure that we've answered all of your questions or if there are any concerns. So Patty, Ryan, anything that we need to address? Are we good?
I don't see anything I don't see any questions.
Okay.
It's a Hallmark, so.
Okay, I know there was one that we're going to follow up on.
Yeah.
The advisor was having, you know, some issues with the 5-star progress report. And we definitely, you know, just to reiterate, we do not want any chapter left behind on the 5-star chapter plan. You know, Hallmark Awards is very competitive. And so we do have to be very strict about, you know, deadlines and things like that. But 5-star plan, we are going to work with you. So if there is some issue, if you have, you know, something that just didn't happen and, you know, every attempt was made, please reach out to us because we really do want to work and give you credit for what your chapter did accomplish during 2021. So as Ryan said, you know, we can't help you if you don't ask. So please don't hesitate to do that.
And we are going to send a copy of this PowerPoint and a copy of this link, a link to this recording out tomorrow. Anybody that's registered, so you'll have both of those. I saw that a couple times. So.
Oh, okay. Yes. Absolutely. Okay, so we know that, you know, certainly a new year, even, you know, when you're operating on an academic calendar year, there's that sense of purpose and, you know, an open horizon ahead of you for what could be possible during 2022. And we just want to encourage you. David Burkus is an author that I have followed. He actually spoke at a Phi Theta Kappa convention. Gosh, it's probably, Susan, I don't remember the exact date. It's probably been 10 years ago, would you say? It's been a while.
I would say that's, 10 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, but he is an author. He's an organizational psychologist, and he has, you know, a lot of his work is involved with workplace teams. But he had an article about what high performers do differently, and it truly spoke to Phi Theta Kappa. And so I just wanted to share that with you. I don't think it'll be earth-shattering, but it's a good reminder for all of us. One of the things that high performers do is they focus on getting better every day. And, you know, for Phi Theta Kappa members and officers, you know, there can be a sense of overwhelmment when they see, you know, things like the whole honors program guide and what is involved in an honors in action project. And then they hear about college project. And it can be overwhelming, but we really designed the 5-star chapter plan to break down into very manageable steps how to be fully engaged in PTK and to really reap all those rewards of getting engaged. And so, you know, for us, that encouragement, you know, we have chapters that go through the entire plan in a semester, but man, January, especially for the advisors on the call, you have an opportunity to set your chapter up to do some, you know, placement of maybe the college project in the spring so that you can focus the rest of the year on honors in action. And, you know, that is really something that for us, you know, the chapters set their own calendar based on what's happening on your own campus and what the priorities are. But anytime that you can, you know, break something down into steps, it makes it so much easier. And that really is the purpose behind the 5-star plan. And then the second thing is that high performers really play to their strengths. And this is very true for Phi Theta Kappa. I mean, we definitely, as you've heard, we have leadership development studies course, we have PTK Edge courses to help members really work on their soft skills to get better and to strengthen those areas that maybe they're not as good in. But at the end of the day, if they're going to really be motivated to participate in your chapter, they need to be, you know, very comfortable and engaged in things that are in their wheelhouse, that are strengths that they enjoy participating in. And so if you have a member who's great at public speaking, you know, look for those opportunities to get them involved in those officer roles so that they have that practice that they can do. It's also, true that yes, we're trying to give opportunities for others to practice those skills, but don't feel like that, the ones that are really outstanding in a particular area need to take a back seat to others, because that's really going to benefit the entire chapter. And so let those students, I know that some advisors will interview students for officer positions and then match them according to their strengths. And that really is a best practice, because it's going to pay off great dividends for the student, the individual student, as well as the chapter. All right, next slide. And then tracking your progress. Of course, the 5-star progress report is one example of this, and really, having that poster. And in fact, this year we're going to be sending out a printed 5-star poster again, so that you can have that visual representation of the 5-star poster, maybe during your chapter meetings. But we'll also have it online in case your chapter is still meeting online. But any type of activity, especially around our honors in action and college projects, you can have very small incremental goals that can be easily tracked. And that idea of checking off a box, or putting something in a column when it's finished, is so important. And yes, Adrienne, yay, the 5-star poster. Yes, we want to have that colorful representation as a goal for the chapter to see during their chapter meetings. So, the honors in action, a couple of other examples, we know you're doing a research process for your honors in action projects. There can be a small group that's really responsible for research, and maybe they're tracking their progress. How many resources have they reviewed, written up, evaluated? College project, you can delegate tasks and have, a committee approach to that. And, have it visible, have those goals that you're tracking in a very visible way, so that members can focus on what has been done and not just what still needs to be done. So those are just another way of staying motivated. And then finally, know what, or maybe whom that you're working for. A lot of our members come to us, the ones that really want to become active, with that idea of they want to change the world. We totally want to support that. That's what Phi Theta Kappa does best. But we also know that that can be extremely daunting. And so when you have worked on a serious issue, or some type of advocacy in your community, one way to, not sure.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
I thought it was me there for a second. I was like, wow, did I pull up my email?
No, I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry.
Okay. So if you are working on a particular issue that is, you've reached out to a group that is dealing with that serious issue, chances are you're going to get to know some individuals that really put a face to that particular issue. And when you're focused on helping even just a small group of people, when you know more about them, when you have a sense of who they are, what their circumstances are, etc., that will inspire your team to stay focused, not just on the big picture of that changing the world, but really understanding how their actions today can impact a group of people tomorrow, not way off in the future, but literally tomorrow. And so we strongly encourage you to keep those elements in mind. We know that Phi Theta Kappa members are busy people. We know that chapter advisors are extremely busy people, but these are ways to, make that progress happen every single day, and be able to check off the list for a 5-star chapter by the end of 2022. So with that, Patty, I'm going to turn it back over to you, you and Ryan.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Susan. We just a couple of announcements. First, let's just say, does anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute, and if you have any questions, or put them in the chat. Any announcement regarding when the new honors program guide will launch? We all can't wait to see it. Oh, of course, Lisa.
It will, thank you. We're really excited about the new topic. If you haven't seen it, it's the art and science of play. We have 7 themes. We're very excited about that. The guide is being finished as we speak, and it will be out sometime later this month. So look for that. If you are really anxious to know what those themes are and the overarching questions, email me at susan.edwards@ptk.org, and I'm happy to share those with you.
And Lisa, don't hate me. You know, I like for everyone, they're working right now on inheritance and legacy. And I don't, you know, you're an overachiever, but if we release it right now, it's going to confuse people. They're going to be like, why am I writing about inheritance and legacy? So we're ready, but we're just going to kind of pull the trigger after you get everything turned in.
I get it. It's just like Christmas Eve. You can't wait for your presents. So sorry.
No, look, we are all lovers of the honors study topic. I was telling a story recently and I thought to myself, I was like, why do I know this weird information? And it was because one year we were trying to study gun laws in Texas. And with my chapter many years ago, and I learned this wild story about a legislator who had run for office on like a pro-family kind of platform in the 70s. But he was legislatively impaired, unable to pass any bills. So whenever he ran for re-election, he had to hire somebody to shoot him and then claim that it was a satanic cult that had gotten him on account of he was so, pro-family. But it turns out that in its infinite wisdom, the Texas legislature had made it illegal to hire someone and shoot you. And so he had to go to jail. And he ended up hiding out at his mother's house in a stereo. And so they said about him, he always did want to be a speaker. So anyways, you learn so many things from honors in action. And I just hope we keep our intellectual creativity high and the gunshots low. Y'all are the best.
All right, any other questions? You're welcome, Adrian. All right, we're gonna just a couple of brief announcements. I know everybody's very excited about the new honor study topic, but I have some exciting news to share with you too for the 5-star chapter development, for the 5-star chapter plan. There will be no changes for 2022. So exactly what you see in the detailed list for this year is exactly what you will see for 2022. We will keep the your chapter's data in the progress reports up through the month of March. And then of course, we will zero that out. And then begins the, us reaching out to you, get you to set your goal and get started for 2022. I love what Jennifer said earlier about, taking a look at the calendar and, try to, make adjustments to maybe doing the college project in the spring and then focusing on honors in action in the summer and the fall. And if you want to hear more about that possible plan of looking at the 5-star calendar and the calendar in a different way, we invite you to join us, advisors, February the 2nd. Yes, we are continuing with our sessions every month. We have an advisor session scheduled for February 2nd at 3 p.m. And then again on February 16th with chapter leaders. And that includes advisors, officers, and members. And so we will follow up with links to those events coming up. Tomorrow, everyone will receive a recap of today's session, along with a copy of the PowerPoint, and you'll be able to get all of that information there. But we thank you for spending this almost hour with us today and the beginning of 2022. And please, please, please let us know if you need anything or have any questions, because we want every chapter to be a 5-star chapter this year. So let us know. Thank you, everybody.